Ambassador Kang Min stood at the viewing window of the Galactic Council's main station. His forearms were folded behind his back as he watched the empty space ahead. Today was special. Today they would meet a new species called humans. The Council had been watching Earth for many years. They saw the humans fight wars, build cities, and finally reach space. Now the humans wanted to join the galaxy. Kang Min had done this many times before. New species always followed the same pattern. They would arrive scared and asking for help. They would beg for technology and protection. It was always the same story. "Ambassador," his assistant called out. "The human ship is coming." Kang Min turned around. Through the window he could see a small dot growing larger. As it came closer, he began to frown. The human ship looked wrong. The ship was not smooth like council ships. It had strange bumps and patches all over it. Parts of it seemed to be held together with some kind of shiny tape. There were odd pieces sticking out at weird angles. It looked like someone had built it from spare parts found in a junkyard. "Are you sure that thing can fly?" asked his assistant. Kang Min was wondering the same thing. The ship was making strange noises as it approached. It was shaking and vibrating like it might fall apart at any moment. Black smoke was coming from one of the engines. "Maybe they need help," Kang Min said. "Send a repair team." But before the repair team could move, the human ship did something impossible. It suddenly stopped shaking. The smoke stopped. The ship moved smoothly into the docking bay like nothing had been wrong. Kang Min walked to the docking bay with his welcome team. He had practiced his speech many times. He would tell the humans about the council. He would explain how they could help Earth grow and learn. He would offer them protection and guidance. The human ship's door opened with a loud hiss. Kang Min expected to see scared aliens asking for help. Instead, a tall human woman walked out. She was wearing a blue uniform with shiny buttons. Her black hair was tied back neatly. She was smiling. "Hello there," she said in a loud, cheerful voice. "I'm Captain Lee Haijin of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. Thanks for inviting us to your lovely station." Kang Min blinked. The human was not scared. She was not asking for help. She was talking like they were old friends meeting for lunch. "Welcome to Council Station Alpha," Kang Min said, trying to follow his script. "I am Ambassador Kang Min. We are honored to make first contact with your species." "First contact?" Captain Lee laughed. "Oh, this isn't first contact. We've been watching your news broadcasts for months. Great show, by the way. We especially love that cooking program with the chef who has tentacles." Kang Min's mouth fell open. "You've been watching our broadcasts?" "Sure, we picked up your signals about 3 sectors back." "Amazing what you can do with a good antenna and some creative wiring," she pointed back at her ship. Engineer Park Dongwoo rigged up a receiver using parts from a coffee machine and an old radio. At that moment, a shorter human man came out of the ship. He was wiping his hands on a dirty cloth. His hair was messy and he had grease stains on his clothes. "Did someone mention coffee?" he asked. "Because I think I might have accidentally created a new type of fuel while trying to make espresso this morning." Kang Min looked at his assistant. His assistant looked back with wide eyes. This was not going according to plan. "How did you get here so fast?" Kang Min asked. "Earth is 3 sectors away." "That should take months of travel." "Oh, that." Engineer Park smiled. "Funny story. We were trying to figure out how to make coffee in 0 gravity. The beans kept floating around. You know, so I thought, what if we could make space itself move instead of the beans?" "That's impossible," Kang Min said. "Yeah, that's what we thought too, but then we tried it anyway. Turns out space is pretty flexible if you ask it nicely." Park shrugged. "Who knew?" Captain Lee nodded. "Took us about a week to get here. Would have been faster, but we stopped to look at that pretty nebula in Sector 7. Dongwoo wanted to see if we could make it change colors. Did you succeed?" Kang Min asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. "Well, it's purple now instead of blue." "We're not sure if that's good or bad," Park scratched his head, "but it looks nice." Kang Min felt dizzy. These humans had crossed 3 sectors in a week. They had changed the color of a nebula. They had done all this by accident while trying to make coffee. Perhaps we should begin the formal welcome ceremony, Kang Min said weakly. The ceremony hall was filled with representatives from dozens of council species. Everyone wanted to see the new humans. Kang Min stood at the podium and began his standard speech. "We welcome the human species to the galactic community," he said. "We hope to guide you as you take your first steps into the larger universe." Captain Lee raised her hand. "Actually, we've been in space for almost 100 years now." "We've visited quite a few places already, 100 years?" Kang Min asked. "But our records show you only achieved spaceflight recently." "Oh, you mean leaving our solar system?" Captain Lee smiled. "Yeah, that was last Tuesday. We were getting bored with just the local planets." The crowd began to murmur last Tuesday. These humans had gone from one solar system to interstellar travel in a week? How is that possible? Asked a representative from the Zeta Collective. Engineer. Park stood up. "Well, we've been working on it for a while. The problem was we needed more power. Then someone suggested using the energy from a black hole." "Black holes are incredibly dangerous," said another representative. "Yeah, that's what everyone kept saying. But we figured, what's the worst that could happen?" Park grinned. "Turns out black holes are really cooperative if you explain what you need them for." "You talked to a black hole?" Kang Min asked. "Not exactly talked. More like ... negotiated. We offered to clean up some space junk in exchange for a little energy." "Boost, fair trade, right?" The crowd was completely silent. Kang Min sat down heavily in his chair. These humans had made a deal with a black hole. They had traveled across the galaxy in a ship held together with tape. They had accidentally invented faster-than-light travel while making coffee. "Is there anything else we should know about your species?" Kang Min asked. Captain Lee and Engineer Park looked at each other. They seemed to be having a silent conversation. "Well," Captain Lee said slowly, "there is one thing. We brought gifts." "Gifts?" Kang Min asked. "Sure, it's a human tradition. When you visit someone new, you bring presents." Captain Lee smiled. "We brought kimchi for everyone." "What is kimchi?" asked a representative. "Fermented vegetables. It's really spicy. Burns your mouth, but in a good way." Captain Lee looked thoughtful. "Although we're not sure how it will affect non-human biology, you might want to start with just a tiny bit." Kang Min put his head in his hands. The humans had brought potentially dangerous food as gifts. They had negotiated with black holes. They had crossed the galaxy by accident. "Ambassador," his assistant whispered, "what do we do now?" Kang Min looked up at the two humans. They were still smiling, still cheerful, still completely unaware that everything they had done should have been impossible. "I think," Kang Min said quietly, "we need to call an emergency council meeting." As the ceremony ended, Kang Min watched the humans walk back to their ship. They were talking about their plans to visit other sectors, maybe see if they could find any interesting stars to experiment with. For the first time in his long career, Kang Min was truly afraid. Not of the humans themselves, but of what they might do next. If they could accidentally invent faster-than-light travel while making coffee, what would they do on purpose? He had a feeling the galaxy was about to become a much more interesting place. Council scientist Yoon Tae-ho sat in his laboratory, staring at the data on his screen. The numbers made no sense. He had been studying the human visitors for 3 days now, and everything he learned made him more confused. The humans had agreed to some basic tests. They said they wanted to help the council understand their species better. Yoon Tae-ho thought this would be simple. He had studied hundreds of alien species before. But humans were different, very different. "This cannot be right," he muttered. Checking his instruments again, Dr. Kim So-young, the human scientist, was sitting nearby. She was reading a book while waiting for the next test. She looked up when she heard him speak. "Is something wrong?" she asked. "The radiation readings," Yoon Tae-ho said. "They show that you have been exposed to deadly levels of radiation. But you are still alive?" Dr. Kim nodded. "Oh, I worked near a nuclear reactor for 5 years. Great job, good benefits. The radiation wasn't too bad once you got used to it." Yoon Tae-ho's eyes went wide. "You worked near a nuclear reactor?" For 5 years? Sure, someone had to fix it when it broke down. I was the only one small enough to crawl into the tight spaces. Dr. Kim smiled. I only glowed in the dark for a few months after I quit. You? Glowed? Just a little bit. It was actually pretty useful for reading in bed. Dr. Kim went back to her book. My husband thought it was romantic. Yoon Tae-ho made notes on his tablet. His hands were shaking. The amount of radiation Dr. Kim had been exposed to should have killed her 10 times over. Instead, she talked about it like it was a normal job. Let's try the pressure test, he said. Dr. Kim followed him to another room. Inside was a chamber that could simulate different atmospheric pressures. Yoon Tae-ho started with Earth's normal pressure, then slowly increased. How do you feel? He asked when the pressure reached twice Earth normal. Fine, Dr. Kim said. This is like being at the bottom of a swimming pool. Yoon Tae-ho increased the pressure more. 3 times normal, 4 times. At 5 times normal pressure, most species would be crushed flat. Dr. Kim was still standing. Normally, this is nice, she said. Reminds me of deep sea diving. I used to go down to the ocean floor to collect samples. The ocean floor? Yoon Tae-ho asked. How deep? Oh, about 11 kilometers down. The pressure there is over 1,000 times normal. Takes some getting used to, but the fish are really interesting. Yoon Tae-ho sat down heavily. 11 kilometers. Underwater? The pressure there would crush his ship like a tin can, but this human had gone there to look at fish. Maybe we should try the gravity test, he said weakly. They moved to the gravity chamber. Yoon Tae-ho started at Earth normal, then slowly increased the gravity. 2 times Earth gravity, 3 times. At 4 times Earth gravity, most species could not even stand up. Dr. Kim was doing jumping jacks. This is great exercise, she said. We should get one of these machines for our ship. Captain Lee would love it. You're exercising? Yoon Tae-ho asked. High gravity is perfect for building muscle. On Earth, some people pay money to work out in rooms like this. Dr. Kim did a few more jumping jacks. Can we make it heavier? Yoon Tae-ho turned off the machine. He needed to sit down. He needed to think. These humans lived on a planet that was trying to kill them every day. Radiation, pressure, gravity, things that would destroy other species were just normal life for humans. Dr. Kim, he said, can you tell me about Earth? Sure. It's a beautiful planet. We have mountains, oceans, forests, deserts. The weather is always changing. Sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold. Sometimes the ground shakes and buildings fall down. The ground shakes? Earthquakes. The planet's surface moves around. Sometimes volcanoes explode too. And we get big storms with lots of wind and lightning. Dr. Kim smiled. It keeps life interesting. Yoon Tae-ho was writing frantically. This sounds very dangerous. Not really, you just have to pay attention. Most people are fine, Dr. Kim thought for a moment. Well, except for the ones who live near the volcanoes, but they like the excitement. They like living near exploding mountains. Some do. The soil is really good for growing food. And the hot springs are relaxing, Dr. Kim shrugged. Besides, you can usually tell when a volcano is going to blow up. You just move away for a while. Yoon Tae-ho felt dizzy. These humans lived on a planet covered with exploding mountains, shaking ground, and deadly storms, and they thought it was relaxing. What do humans do for fun? He asked. Dr. Kim's eyes lit up. Oh, lots of things. We have sports, games, music, art. Some people like to jump out of flying vehicles with pieces of cloth to slow them down. They jump out of flying vehicles. It's called skydiving. You fall really fast toward the ground, then pull a cord and a parachute opens up. Very exciting. Dr. Kim pulled out a small device and showed him pictures. I've done it hundreds of times. Yoon Tae-ho looked at the pictures. Humans were falling through the sky, smiling and laughing. This looks terrifying. That's what makes it fun. The more scared you are, the better you feel when you land safely. Dr. Kim scrolled through more pictures. Some people do it without parachutes. Without parachutes. Yoon Tae-ho's voice was very high now. They wear special suits that let them glide, like flying squirrels, but bigger. Dr. Kim showed him a video of humans jumping off cliffs and soaring through the air. My brother does this every weekend. Yoon Tae-ho watched the video. The humans were flying between trees and rocks at incredible speeds. One wrong move would mean death, but they were laughing and cheering. What else do humans do for fun? He asked, though he was afraid to know. Well, some people like to swim with sharks. Others climb very tall mountains where there's no air to breathe. Some race cars at 300 kilometers per hour. Dr. Kim scrolled through more pictures. Oh, and there's this thing called bungee jumping where you tie a rope to your feet and jump off bridges. You tie ropes to your feet and jump off bridges? The rope is stretchy, so you bounce back up. It's like being a yo-yo, but more fun. Dr. Kim showed him a video of someone diving off a high bridge. My grandmother did this for her 80th birthday. Your grandmother? She said, sitting around. Was boring. She wanted to feel alive again. Dr. Kim smiled. She's planning to go skydiving next month. Yoon Tae-ho put his head in his hands. An 80-year-old human had jumped off a bridge for entertainment. These people didn't just survive on a deadly planet, they invented new ways to put themselves. In danger, Dr. Kim, he said slowly, do humans understand that these activities are dangerous? Of course, that's why we do them. If they weren't dangerous, they wouldn't be exciting. Dr. Kim looked confused. Don't other species do dangerous things for fun? No, Yoon Tae-ho said. Most species try to avoid danger. We build safe homes. Eat safe food, live safe lives? That sounds boring, Dr. Kim said. How do you feel alive if you're always safe? Yoon Tae-ho stared at her. This was the key question. Other species felt alive by staying alive. Humans felt alive by risking death. I need to call the council, he said. Dr. Kim nodded. Okay, can I use your gravity chamber while you're gone? I want to try some sit-ups at 6 times normal gravity. As Yoon Tae-ho left the laboratory, he could hear the machine starting up again. Through the window, he saw Dr. Kim exercising in gravity that would crush most beings flat. She was smiling. He walked quickly to the communication center. The council needed to know the truth about humans. They weren't just tough. They weren't just lucky. They were completely insane. They lived on a planet that tried to kill them every day. They survived radiation that would destroy other species. They played in pressures and gravities that would crush normal beings. And when they got bored, they invented new ways to risk their lives. The scariest part was that they thought this was normal. Yoon Tae-ho began typing his report. How do you tell the council that you've discovered a species that finds danger relaxing? How do you explain that humans think exploding volcanoes are good neighbors? He typed slowly. Emergency report on human species. Recommendation. Treat with extreme caution. They are not like us. Behind him, he could hear Dr. Kim laughing as she exercised in crushing gravity. The sound sent chills down his spine. The humans weren't just different. They were impossible. And they were coming to join the galaxy. The alarm bells were ringing throughout Research Station Beta. Commander Zekton rushed to the control room, his 6 legs moving as fast as they could. The station's sensors showed 12 pirate ships approaching fast. How long until they reach? U.S.? He asked. 20 minutes, replied his second officer. Our shields can hold for maybe an hour after that. Commander Zekton nodded. This was standard procedure. The pirates would demand supplies and data. The station would resist. Both sides would fight for several hours until council reinforcements arrived. It was always the same pattern. Send the distress signal, he ordered. Tell them we need help immediately. Already sent, sir. Help will arrive in 6 hours. 6 hours. Commander Zekton looked at his crew. They were scared but ready. The station had good defenses. They would hold out as long as possible. Sir, called out the communications officer. The humans are asking to speak with you. Commander Zekton had forgotten about the humans. Lieutenant Colonel Choi Min-ho and his small security team had arrived yesterday. They were supposed to observe council security procedures. Bad timing. Put them through, he said. Lieutenant Colonel Choi appeared on the screen. He was a tall human with short, black hair and calm eyes. He did not look worried about the approaching pirates. "Commander," Choi said, "we see you have a small problem coming your way." "Yes, 12 pirate ships. We will hold them off until help arrives." Commander Zekton tried to sound confident. "You and your team should go to the safe room." "Safe room?" Choi smiled. "That sounds boring. Mind if we handle this instead?" "Handle this?" Commander Zekton blinked. "There are 12 ships. You have 6 people." "True, but they're pirates. We're humans." Choi looked at something off-screen. "How long until they get here?" 18 minutes now." "Perfect. Just enough time to finish lunch." Choi turned to someone. Behind him. "Bae, are you done with your soup?" A woman's voice answered. "Almost. Can you pass the kimchi?" Commander Zekton stared at the screen. The humans were eating lunch while pirates approached. "Lieutenant Colonel, do you understand the situation?" "Sure. Pirates want to steal your stuff. We stop them? Simple." Choi took a bite of something. "Don't worry, Commander. We'll try to wrap this up before your soap opera starts." "My what?" "That show you watch every day at 1400 hours. The one with the dramatic music and the crying." Choi grinned. "We've been watching it too. Very entertaining." The screen went black. Commander Zekton looked at his officers. They all had the same confused expression. "Sir," the communications officer said, "the humans are requesting permission." "To leave the station?" "Leave the station? Where are they going?" "They want to take their shuttle and meet the pirates halfway." Commander Zekton felt his blood pressure rising. 6 humans in one small shuttle want to fight 12 pirate ships? "That's what they're saying, sir." "Tell them no, it's suicide." "Sir, they're launching anyway." On the main screen, Commander Zekton watched the human shuttle leave the docking bay. It was smaller than the pirate ship's escape pods. It looked like a toy next to the approaching fleet. "This is insane," he muttered. "Sir, the humans are broadcasting something." "Put it on screen." Lieutenant Colonel Choi appeared again. He was now wearing some kind of black armor. Behind him, his team was checking weapons and equipment. "Attention pirate ships," Choi said in a loud, clear voice. "This is Lieutenant Colonel Choi Min-ho of the Earth Defense Force. You are approaching a protected research station. Turn around now." The pirates' response came immediately. Their leader appeared on screen. He was a large alien with sharp teeth and red eyes. "Humans," the pirate laughed. "We heard about you. Stupid little creatures from a backwater planet. You should run home before you get hurt." "That's not very polite," Choi said. "We asked nicely. Now we have to do this the fun way." "The fun way?" the pirate snarled. "We have 12 ships." "You have one tiny shuttle." "True," Choi said. "But you forget something important." "What?" "We're humans. We're completely insane." The screen went black. Commander Zekton watched his sensors as the human shuttle moved toward the pirate fleet. It was moving fast, but it was still just one small ship. "Sir, the shuttle is doing something strange." "What do you mean?" "It's spinning. And it's launched something." On the sensor screen, Commander Zekton saw small objects flying away from the human shuttle. They looked like tiny missiles, but there were dozens of them. "What are those?" "Unknown, sir. They're too small to be proper weapons." The first pirate ship exploded. "Sir," the sensor officer called out, "ship number 4 just lost all power." Another explosion. Then another. "How are they doing this?" Commander Zekton asked. "Unknown, sir. The objects they launched. They're not showing up as weapons. They look like garbage. Kitchen waste, empty food containers, used clothing. But somehow they're disabling entire ships." On the communication screen, the pirate leader appeared again. He looked very angry. "What are you doing to my ships?" he shouted. Lieutenant Colonel Choi's voice came through clearly. "Standard human combat tactics. We're using your own ships against you." "That's impossible. Watch this." 2 more pirate ships collided with each other. Commander Zekton watched in amazement as the human shuttle somehow caused the pirates to crash into their own allies. "How are they doing that?" he asked. His sensor officer was scanning frantically. Sir, it looks like they're using the pirates' own gravity generators against them. They're creating gravity wells that pull the ships together. You can do that? I don't know, sir. I've never seen anything like it. Another pirate ship exploded, then another. The remaining pirates were trying to retreat, but something was wrong with their engines. Sir, the pirates are broadcasting on all channels. Put it through. The pirate leader's voice was filled with panic. We surrender. We surrender. Please stop. We don't want to fight the crazy humans anymore. Too late, came Lieutenant Colonel Troy's cheerful voice. You should have been polite when we asked nicely. The last pirate ship lost all power and began drifting. Commander Zekton checked his chronometer. 17 minutes had passed since the human shuttle launched. Sir, the humans are requesting permission to dock. Of course, let them dock. Commander. Zekton went to the docking bay to meet the humans. Lieutenant Colonel Choi walked out of the shuttle, followed by his team. They all looked completely normal, like they had just come back from a walk in the park. Mission accomplished, Choi sighed. All pirate ships disabled. No casualties on our side. How did you do that? Commander Zekton asked. Standard human tactics. We used their ship's own systems against them. Gravity generators, life support, engines, they're all connected. You just need to know which buttons to push. But how did you know which buttons? To push? Captain Bei Su-jin, the human tactical officer, smiled. We read the instruction manuals. What instruction manuals? For their ships. All ship designs are registered with the Galactic Trade Commission. We downloaded the manuals during lunch. Bei held up a tablet. Amazing what you can learn while eating soup. Commander Zekton stared at them. You studied their ship designs during lunch? Sure, takes about 10 minutes to read a manual. Then you know everything about how the ship works. Choi shrugged. After that, it's easy to break them. But the combat itself. How did you disable 12 ships so quickly? We didn't disable them, Bei said. We convinced them to disable themselves. How? Pirates are bullies. Bullies are cowards. Show them something they don't understand, and they panic, Choi smiled. We showed them garbage flying through space, and they assumed it was some kind of superweapon. So the garbage was not dangerous? Well, some of it was pretty old kimchi. That can be dangerous if you're not careful, Choi laughed. But mostly it was just trash. The real weapons were their own fear and confusion. Commander Zekton looked at his security team. They had spent years training for pirate attacks. They had practiced defensive strategies and combat techniques. The humans had won the battle by reading instruction manuals and throwing garbage. Lieutenant Colonel, he said, would you mind writing a report about your methods? Sure, but it's pretty simple. Know your enemy, use their strengths against them, and never underestimate the power of creative thinking. Choi headed toward the door. Also, always finish your lunch first. Fighting on an empty stomach is bad for morale. As the humans left, Commander Zekton stood alone in the docking bay. Around him, his officers were checking the damage reports. There was no damage. The station was completely unharmed. He looked out the window at the drifting pirate ships. They were all intact but powerless. The pirates inside were probably wondering what had happened to them. Commander Zekton made a mental note to recommend that all Council security teams study human combat methods. Then he made another note to never, ever make humans angry. The scary thing was that the humans had not even been trying very hard. They treated the whole battle like a minor inconvenience. They were more worried about missing their television show than fighting 12 pirate ships. He shuddered to think what humans could do if they were actually serious about fighting. Chief Engineer Veltar was having the worst day of his career. The main quantum processor that controlled life support for Council Station Alpha was dying. The massive computer that kept 30,000 beings alive was showing critical errors. Every few minutes. How long do we have? Asked Station Commander Ficklon. Maybe 3 days before complete failure, Veltar replied, looking at his readings. The quantum matrix is becoming unstable. We need a full replacement team from the core worlds. How long will that take? 6 weeks? Maybe 7? Veltar sighed. We'll have to evacuate the station. Commander Ficklon looked worried. Evacuating 30,000 people would take weeks. They didn't have weeks. Sir, called the communications. Officer, the humans are asking to help. The humans? Commander Ficklon looked confused. What can they do? The engineer Namji-1 says she can fix it. Veltar laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Fix it? This is a quantum processing matrix. It took our best engineers 5 years to build it. You can't just fix it. Should I tell her no? The communications officer asked. Wait, Commander Ficklon said. What exactly did she say? She said, and I quote, sounds like a computer problem. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Veltar stared at the officer. She wants to restart a quantum processor? That's what she said, sir. That's impossible. You can't just restart quantum matrices. They're not simple computers. Veltar shook his head. Tell her thank you, but we need real engineers. Sir, the officer said, she's already on her way down. 10 minutes later, Namji-1 arrived at the Quantum Processing Center. She was a short human woman with messy black hair tied back with what looked like a piece of wire. She was carrying a metal box that rattled when she walked. So where's the broken computer? She asked. Veltar pointed to the massive quantum processor. It was the size of a small building, covered in blinking lights and humming with energy. That's not a computer, Namji-1 said. That's a city. It's the most advanced quantum matrix in the galaxy, Veltar said proudly. It processes 17 billion calculations per second. Nice. Namji-1 walked around the machine, looking at it from different angles. What's wrong with it? The quantum states are becoming unstable. The error rate is increasing exponentially. Soon it will suffer complete matrix collapse. Veltar used his most technical language, hoping to impress the human. Unhung Namji-1 opened her toolbox. Inside were things that Veltar recognized: hammers, screwdrivers, wire cutters, and something that looked like tape. So it's acting up, being stubborn, not doing what it's supposed to do. Namji-1 pulled out a hammer. Sometimes you have to show machines who's boss. You're going to hit it? Veltar was horrified. With a hammer? Not hit. Percussive maintenance. Namji-1 walked up to the quantum processor. Where's the main power coupling? You can't just hit a quantum matrix. It's incredibly delicate. Everything's delicate until you know where to not be delicate. Namji-1 found a panel and opened it. Inside were thousands of glowing components. Ah, there's the problem. What problem? This cable here. Namji-1 pointed to a thick cable running between two quantum cores. It's loose. Veltar looked at his instruments. The diagnostics show all connections are secure. Your diagnostics are wrong. Namji-1 wiggled the cable. It moved slightly. See? Loose. Even if it is loose, you can't just fix it. These connections require precise quantum alignment. It takes special tools and 3 days of calibration. Namji-1 reached into her toolbox and pulled out a roll of metallic tape. Or you can use duct tape. Duct tape. Veltar's voice went very high. On a quantum processor? Best invention in human history. Fixes everything. Namji-1 began wrapping the tape around the connection. If you can't fix it with duct tape, you're not using enough duct tape. This is insane. You can't repair quantum matrices with tape. Watch me. Namji-1 finished taping the connection. Then she pulled out her hammer. Now for the percussive maintenance. No, wait. Veltar reached out to stop her. Namji-1 hit the side of the quantum processor with her hammer. Not hard, but firmly. The sound echoed through the chamber. What are you doing? Veltar screamed, convincing it to work properly. Namji-1 hit it again in a different spot. Sometimes machines get confused. They need a reminder of what they're supposed to do. The quantum processor's lights flickered. Then they stopped flickering. The humming sound became steady. There we go. Namji-1 put her hammer back in the toolbox. Good as new. Veltar looked at his instruments. The error rate was dropping. The quantum matrix was stabilizing. All systems were showing green. That's impossible, he whispered. What's impossible? Asked Oh Hyanwu, another human who had just arrived. He was carrying a cup of something that smelled terrible. She fixed the quantum processor, Veltar said. With tape and a hammer. Oh, that? Hyanwu took a sip of his drink. One's great with computers. She once fixed our ship's navigation system by singing to it. Singing? Some machines are just lonely, Namji-1 explained. They want attention. You talk to them nicely, maybe sing a little song, and they start working better. You sing to computers? Sure, this one here likes classical music. Nam. G1 patted the quantum processor gently. Don't you, big guy? The processor's lights pulsed in what almost looked like a happy pattern. Veltar checked his readings again. Not only was the quantum matrix working, it was working better than before. Processing speed was up 15%. Error rates were at 0. How is this possible? He asked. Easy, Nam G1 said. Machines are like people. Sometimes they have bad days. Sometimes they need encouragement. Sometimes they just need someone to care about them. But it's a computer. It doesn't have feelings. Are you sure about that? Hyanwu asked. This computer thinks 17 billion thoughts per second. That's more than most people think in a year. Maybe it does have feelings. Veltar looked at the quantum processor. The lights were pulsing in steady, rhythmic patterns. It did look almost happy. Besides, Nam G1 continued, the real problem wasn't the quantum matrix. It was the cooling system. The cooling system is working. Perfectly, Veltar said. It's working, but it's not happy. The coolant pumps are stressed. They're working too hard. Nam G1 walked over to another panel. See this gauge? It's in the red zone. Veltar looked at the gauge. It was indeed showing high stress levels, but that's normal. The pumps always run in the red zone. That's your problem. You're pushing your machines too hard. They get tired. They start making mistakes. Namjuan adjusted a dial. There, now they can relax a little, but if you reduce the cooling, the processor will overheat. No, it won't. Watch. Namji-1 made a few more adjustments. The processor doesn't need as much cooling because it's not working as hard, it's working smarter. Veltar watched his instruments. The cooling demand was dropping. The processor temperature was stable. Everything was working better with less effort. I don't understand, he said. You've been treating your machines like slaves? Namji-1 explained. Work harder, run faster, never rest. But machines are like people. If you treat them nicely, they work better. So you just dot them politely to work? Sometimes. Other times you have to be firm. Namji-1 picked up her hammer again. But mostly you just have to pay attention. Listen to what they're telling you. Machines don't talk. Sure they do. They talk with sounds, vibrations, heat patterns, electrical fluctuations. You just have to learn their language. Namji-1 closed her toolbox. This processor was telling you it was unhappy. You just weren't listening. Hyanwu nodded. Yu-1 speaks fluent machine. She can talk to anything with circuits. It's not that hard, Namji-1 said. Machines want to work. They like having a purpose. You just have to help them do their job without making them miserable. Veltar looked around the quantum processing center. All the machines were running smoothly. The lights were steady. The sounds were harmonious. It was like the entire computer. System was content. So the secret to advanced engineering is being nice to machines. Being nice, paying attention, and knowing when to use duct tape. Namji-1 smiled. Also, singing helps. Machines like music. As the humans left, Veltar stood alone with the quantum processor. It was running perfectly. Better than perfect. The repairs that should have taken weeks were done in 20 minutes. He looked at the piece of duct tape holding the quantum coupling together. It was just tape, simple, ordinary tape. But somehow it was working better than their most advanced connectors. Maybe, he thought, humans weren't just insane. Maybe they understood something that the rest of the galaxy had forgotten. Machines weren't just tools. They were partners, and sometimes partners just needed someone to listen to them. The quantum processor hummed quietly, its lights pulsing in peaceful patterns. For the first time in years, it sounded happy. Tar made a note to order some duct tape, and maybe learn a few songs. Ambassador Rixval was tired. He had been trying to make peace between the Kithara and the Morden for 6 months. Both species had been fighting for 300 years. Nobody could even remember why the war started. "This is hopeless," he told his assistant. "They won't even sit in the same room together." "Perhaps we should try a different approach," his assistant suggested. "We've tried everything. Negotiations, mediation, arbitration, even bribery." Rixval rubbed his temples. "They hate each other too much." "Sir, the humans have sent a diplomat." "Humans?" Rixval looked up. "Why would humans care about this war?" "They say war is bad for trade. Also, they want to open a restaurant chain." "In this sector," Rixval sighed. "The humans had strange priorities." "Send her in." Ambassador Park Jin-ae walked into the office. She was a small human woman with bright eyes and a cheerful smile. She was carrying a large bag that smelled like food. "Ambassador Rixval, nice to meet you," she said loudly. "I brought snacks." "Snacks?" Rixval looked confused. "Food. From Earth. I thought everyone might be hungry." Park Jin-ae opened her bag and pulled out containers of strange-looking items. "This is kimchi. It's spicy fermented vegetables. Very good for you. Ambassador Park, we appreciate your interest, but this is a very serious situation. The Kithara and Morden have been at war for centuries." "I know. That's terrible." "All that fighting must work up an appetite." Park Jin-ae continued unpacking food. "This is bulgogi. It's barbecued meat, and this is rice. Everyone likes rice." Rixval watched her arrange food on his desk. "Ambassador, I don't think you understand. These species refuse to negotiate. They won't even talk to each other." "Of course they won't talk. They're hungry and grumpy," Park Jin-ae smiled. "But don't worry. I have a plan." "What kind of plan?" "The best kind. A simple plan." Park Jin-ae pulled out a small device. "This is called a television. It shows moving pictures with stories." "I know what television is," Rixval said. "But how will that help?" "You'll see." "Can I borrow your conference room, the big one?" 2 hours later, Rixval watched in amazement as both Kithara and Morden negotiating teams entered the conference room. They had been enemies for centuries. They should have started fighting immediately. Instead, they just looked confused. The room was dark except for a large screen on one wall. The screen was showing strange images, humans doing bizarre things while talking very fast. Loud music played in the background. "What is this?" asked General Zektar of the Kithara. "I don't know," replied Commander Mergen of the Morden. "Some kind of ... entertainment?" Both teams sat down carefully, keeping as far apart as possible. On the screen, humans were falling down, making strange faces and saying things that made no sense. "Is this normal human behavior?" General Zektar asked. "I think so," Commander Mergen replied. "They all seem very ... energetic." The humans on screen were now chasing each other around a room, yelling and laughing. One human hit another with a soft object, and everyone started laughing. "Why are they hitting each other?" General Zektar asked. "I think it's some kind of ritual combat," Commander Mergen said. "But they seem to enjoy it." "That's very strange." "Yes, very strange." Both teams continued watching. The humans on screen were now trying to cook food while everything went wrong. They burned the food, spilled ingredients everywhere, and accidentally destroyed the kitchen. But they kept laughing. "They find failure amusing," General Zektar observed. "Most species would be angry," Commander Mergen agreed. "But they seem happy about it. Humans are very odd." "Yes, very odd indeed." Rixval noticed that both teams were now sitting closer together. They were still watching the screen, but they had started sharing the snacks that Ambassador Park had left on the table. "This kimchi is quite spicy," General Zektar said, taking another bite. It burns, but in a pleasant way, Commander Mergen agreed. What did she call it? Fermented vegetables? I think so. Humans eat very strange food. On the screen, the humans were now showing a cooking program. A human with many arms was preparing food while explaining each step. But the food was nothing like what either species had ever seen. Are those tentacles? Commander Mergen asked. I think they're noodles, General Zektar replied. But they move like they're alive? Humans eat moving food? Apparently. And they seem to enjoy it. Both teams watched in fascination as the human chef added more strange ingredients. The final dish looked completely inedible to both Cathara and Morden. But the humans on screen were eating it happily? Their stomachs must be made of metal, General Zektar said. Or acid, Commander Mergen added. Nothing else could digest that? Humans are definitely the strangest species in the galaxy. Absolutely, no question about it. Hours passed. Both teams kept watching, kept eating, and kept commenting on the bizarre human behavior they were seeing. They watched humans jump out of flying vehicles. They watched humans swim with dangerous sea creatures. They watched humans climb mountains in terrible weather. Why do they do these things? General Zektar asked. For fun, apparently, Commander Mergen replied. Humans think danger is entertaining. That explains why they wanted to come here. A war zone must seem like a vacation to them. Good point. They probably think our conflict is a form of recreation. Both teams began laughing. The idea that humans might see their ancient war as entertainment was somehow funny. The door opened, and Ambassador Park Jin-ae entered with Song Mirei, the human cultural attaché. How's everyone doing? Park Jin-ae asked cheerfully. We're learning about human culture, General Zektar replied. It's very educational. Humans are completely insane, Commander Mergen added. But in an interesting way. Thank you, Park Jin-ae said. That's very nice of you to say. Song Mirei looked at the two teams sitting together, sharing food and laughing at the television. You know, you two species have a lot in common. We do? Both leaders asked at the same time. Sure, you both think humans are crazy, you both like spicy food. You both enjoy watching other people do stupid things, Song Mirei smiled. You have the same sense of humor. General Zektar and Commander Mergen looked at each other. It was true. They had been agreeing about everything for the past 4 hours. Besides, Park Jin-ae continued, fighting is so much work. Wouldn't it be easier to be friends and just watch humans do dangerous things instead? That does sound more relaxing, General Zektar admitted. And probably more entertaining. Commander Mergen agreed. Great. Park Jin-ae pulled out a document. I brought a peace treaty. It's very simple. You stop fighting each other and start making fun of humans instead. Both leaders read the treaty. It was indeed simple. Almost insultingly simple. But after watching hours of human weirdness, simple seemed like a good idea. This treaty just says we agree to stop shooting at each other, General Zektar said. That's all you need, Song Mirei replied. Everything else is just details. You can work those out later while watching more human entertainment. What if we disagree about something? Commander Mergen asked. Watch a human comedy show until... You remember how weird we are, Park Jin-ae suggested. It puts everything in perspective. Both leaders looked at each other. They looked at the screen where humans were now trying to build furniture while everything went wrong. They looked at the empty food containers. This is ridiculous, General Zektar said. Completely ridiculous, Commander Mergen agreed. Should we sign it anyway? General Zektar asked. Why not? It's not like our war was making any sense either. Commander Mergen replied. They signed the treaty, Ambassador. Rixval watched from the observation room as both teams shook hands and exchanged contact information. They were already planning to watch more human shows together. How did you do that? He asked Ambassador Park. Easy. We gave them something more interesting to think about than their old fight. Park Jin-ae smiled. Turns out when you show people something really crazy, their own problems don't seem so important anymore? So your strategy was to confuse them with human entertainment. Cultural bombardment, Song Naray explained. Overwhelmed them with so much weirdness that they forget why they were angry. And the food? Hard to fight when your mouth is full of kimchi, Park Jin-ae said. Also, sharing food makes people friendly. Basic psychology, Rixval shook his head. The council's best diplomats had failed for 6 months. The humans had succeeded in 4 hours using television and spicy vegetables. Is this how humans always negotiate? Pretty much, Park Jin-ae said. Keep everyone fed, entertained, and slightly confused. Works every time. As the Kithara and Morden teams left together, still discussing the strange human shows they had watched, Rixval made a note to recommend human diplomatic methods to the council. He also made a note to order more kimchi, just in case. Council Chairman Lun Jae-seok stood at the head of the Great Assembly Hall. Representatives from 200 species sat in their assigned seats, all talking at once. The emergency session had been called to discuss the human situation. Order! Order! Chairman Lim called out. We will address this matter calmly and logically. Logically? Shouted Representative Vexthor from the Zeta Collective. How can we be logical about a species that fixes quantum computers with hammers and makes peace treaties using spicy vegetables? Added Representative Quindal from the Outer Rim. They jumped out of their ship to fight pirates. Called out. Another voice. Chairman Lim raised his hands for silence. Yes, I have read all the reports. The humans are unusual. Unusual? Representative Vexthor stood up. They are dangerous. They solve problems by breaking the laws of physics. They treat death-defying activities as entertainment, Representative Quindal added. They actively seek out danger for fun. Then they somehow make it work, said a quiet voice from the back. Everyone turned to look. It was Ambassador Kongmin, who had conducted the first human contact. What do you mean? Chairman Lim asked. Every impossible thing they do somehow works. They should have died 1,000 times over, but instead they succeed. Kongmin stood up slowly. Maybe that's not insanity. Maybe that's genius. Genius? Representative Vexthor laughed. They throw garbage at pirate ships. And the pirates surrendered, Kongmin replied. In 17 minutes. The assembly hall fell silent. This was true. The humans had accomplished more in weeks than the council had managed in years. Perhaps, Chairman Lim said carefully, we should consider what this means for the galaxy. Before anyone could answer, alarms began ringing throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red as the communication officer rushed to the podium. Chairman, the officer gasped, we have a major crisis. The void anomaly in Sector 7 has become unstable. It's growing rapidly. Chairman Lim felt his blood turn cold. The void anomaly was a massive space distortion that had been stable for thousands of years. If it was growing ... how bad is it? He asked. It's expanding toward 3 inhabited star systems. At current rate, it will destroy them within 6 hours. The officer's voice was shaking. 40 billion lives are at risk. The assembly hall erupted in panic. Representatives were shouting, arguing, demanding action, but Chairman Lim knew the truth. There was nothing they could do. The void anomaly was beyond their technology, beyond their understanding. Sir, the communication officer called out, the human fleet is requesting permission to investigate. The human fleet? Chairman Lim looked confused. What human fleet? Admiral Shin Dong-hyuk just arrived with 12 ships. He says they were in the neighborhood and heard about the problem. Representative Vexthor stood up again. We cannot allow untested alien technology near the void anomaly. It could make things worse. How could it be worse? Kongmin asked. 40 billion people are going to die anyway. Send them away, Representative. Quindal demanded. This requires careful study and planning. We need our best scientists. Our best scientists have been studying the void anomaly for 1,000 years, Chairman Lim said quietly. They still don't understand it. Sir, the communication officer interrupted, Admiral Shin is asking what our current plan is. Tell him we're forming a committee to study the situation, Representative Vexthor said. Sir, he says that sounds boring. He's going to try something more interesting. Wait, Chairman Lim called out. Tell him not to ... Too late, sir. The human. Ships are already moving toward the anomaly. On the main screen, everyone could see the human fleet approaching the massive space distortion. The void anomaly was a swirling mass of dark energy that bent space and time around it. Nothing that entered it had ever come back out. They're flying directly into it, someone whispered. This is suicide, Representative Vexthor said. They're all going to die. And probably make the anomaly worse, Representative Quindal added. Chairman Lim watched the screen. The human ships were indeed flying straight into the void anomaly. It was the most reckless thing he had ever seen. Sir, we're receiving a transmission. From Admiral Shin. Put it through. Admiral Shin Dong-hyuk appeared on the screen. He was a tall man with graying hair and calm eyes. Behind him, his crew was working at various stations, seemingly unconcerned about flying into a cosmic death. Trap. Council Station, this is Admiral Shin. Just wanted to let you know we're going to take a closer look at this thing. Admiral, Chairman Lim said urgently, you must turn back. The void anomaly is incredibly dangerous, oh we know. That's what makes it interesting. Admiral Shin smiled. Besides, it's probably just confused. Confused? Sure, most cosmic phenomena are just lonely or confused. They act out because they don't know what else to do. Admiral Shin looked at something off-screen, like black holes. They're not really dangerous, they just have trust issues. Admiral, please reconsider ... Don't worry, Chairman, we'll figure something out. We always do, Admiral Shin waved cheerfully. Talk to you soon. The transmission ended. On the screen, the human ships disappeared into the swirling darkness of the void anomaly. They're gone, Representative Vexthor said. I told you this would happen. 40 billion people are still going to die, Representative Quindal added. And now we've lost the humans too. Chairman Lim stared at the screen. The void anomaly continued growing, reaching toward the inhabited systems. In 5 hours, it would begin consuming planets. Sir, the communication officer called out, I'm detecting some kind of activity inside the anomaly. What kind of activity? Unknown. Sir, the readings are very strange. Strange how? Well, it looks like someone is having a conversation in there. A conversation? Yes, sir. Two-way communication? As if someone is talking to the anomaly and it's talking back. Representative Vexthor snorted. That's impossible. The void anomaly is not a life form. How do we know? Kang Min asked quietly. Have we ever tried talking to it? You can't talk to a cosmic phenomenon. Why not? Kang Min replied. Humans talk to their machines, they sing to their computers. Maybe they talk to space anomalies too. On the screen, something was happening. The swirling darkness of the void anomaly was changing. The chaotic energy patterns were becoming more organized, more peaceful. So the anomaly has stopped growing. What? It stopped expanding. In fact, it seems to be shrinking? Chairman Lim watched in amazement as the massive space distortion began to contract. The dark energy was becoming lighter, the dangerous distortions were smoothing out. Sir, we're receiving another transmission from Admiral Shin. Put it through immediately. Admiral Shin appeared on screen again. He looked completely normal, as if he had just taken a pleasant walk instead of flying into a cosmic death trap. Council Station, Admiral Shin reporting. Problem solved. Problem solved? Chairman Lim asked weakly. Yep, turns out the anomaly was just having an existential crisis. Been alone out here for thousands of years, didn't know what it was supposed to be doing. Admiral Shin shrugged. We explained that space distortions don't need to have a purpose. They can just exist? Be beautiful. You talk to it? Sure, nice entity actually. Very philosophical. It's decided to become a peaceful space garden instead of a dangerous anomaly. Admiral Shin smiled. Also, we may have accidentally figured out a new form of faster-than-light travel. What? The anomaly showed us how to fold space without creating dangerous distortions. Pretty neat trick. We'll send you the technical specifications once we work out how to explain it in math. The screen showed the former void anomaly transforming into something beautiful. Instead of dark, swirling chaos, it was now a gentle spiral of colored light, harmless and magnificent. The 40 billion people? Chairman Lim asked. Safe, the anomaly apologized for scaring them. It's going to send them some nice auroras as an apology gift. Admiral, how did you know this would work? We didn't. But doing nothing definitely wouldn't work, so we figured we'd try something. Admiral Shin looked thoughtful. Worst case, we'd die heroically. Best case, we'd solve the problem. Middle case, we'd learn something interesting. And you were willing to risk your lives on those odds? Sure, that's what we do. Someone has to try the impossible things, right? Admiral Shin grinned. Besides, if we didn't do it, who would? The transmission ended. Chairman Lim looked around the assembly hall. Every representative was staring at the screen in stunned silence. They saved 40 billion lives, Kongmin said quietly, by having a conversation with a cosmic anomaly. They turned a space-time distortion into a garden, Representative Vexthor whispered. And accidentally invented new technology, Representative Quindal added. Again. Chairman Lim stood up slowly. I call for a vote. All in favor of granting humans full membership in the Galactic Council? Every hand in the assembly went up, not because they understood humans, but because trying to keep humanity contained seemed infinitely more dangerous than just letting them loose on the galaxies. Problems. Motion passed unanimously, Chairman Lim announced. Welcome to the galaxy, humans. As the representatives filed out, talking excitedly about the implications of human membership, Chairman Lim remained behind. He looked at the screen, which still showed the beautiful light garden that used to be the void anomaly.